Hello everyone, this is Keith Jackson and welcome to Jack's Math Notebook. In this video, we're going to find the greatest common factor among two or more numbers, and we have three big examples to show you how we can do that, and also to show you how the greatest common factor can be useful in other forms of math. And so let's start with finding the greatest common factor between 15 and 40. And all we're going to do is just lay out those factors because factors are just simply two numbers that multiply to a number. And let's take a look at 15 first. We know that 1 times 15 will give us 15 because 1 and 15 are factors of 15, right? 15 is a factor of 15. A number can be a factor of itself. And also 3 and 5, 3 times 5 will give us 15. So the factors laid out in front of us, as far as 15 is concerned, would be 1, 3, 5, and 15. Now let's do the same thing with 40 and find the factors of 40. And here we are. We're going to lay them out just like you see here because we know that 1 times 40 will give us 40, while 2 times 20 will give us 40, and 4 times 10 will give us 40, and 5 times 8 will give us 40. And so here are the factors of 40 right here laid out in order, right? In ascending order. And what we found right here is that, of course, yeah, 1 is a factor of both numbers, but did you know that 5 is the greatest factor of those two numbers? And so we're going to select 5 because 5 is the highest factor here that it shares with 40 right here that you see right here, because 5 is the highest factor for 15 that shares with the highest factor that it shares with 40 that they have in common. See, they have to have this factor in common, and it's the highest one that they have in common. And keeping in mind that we can also call the greatest common factor the GCF. And in this case, the GCF of 15 and 40 will be 5. And did you know that we can use the greatest common factor to simplify this fraction? So let's say we have 15 over 40ths, right? And we wanted to simplify it. Well, we're just going to use the greatest common factor to simplify it to its lowest terms. And so now we know that 15 divided by 5 will give us 3, while 40 divided by 5 will give us 8. And this is the most simplest form of a fraction of 15 over 40 is 3/8. And let's go to the second big example in which we're going to do the same thing with 30 and 54. We're going to lay those factors right out for 30, and we're going to lay those factors right out for 54. And we know that 1 times 30 will give us 30, while 2 times 15 will give us 30. 3 times 10 will give us 30, and 5 times 6 will give us 30. So all of these are factors of 30. And let's take a look at the factors of 54, which we have 1 times 54 will give us 54, 2 times 27 will give us 54, 3 times 18 will give us 54, and 6 times 9 will give us 54. And we discover here that they share a 6, right? But here's the thing, they share more than just one factor. They share a 1, a 2, and a 3. Well, why didn't we circle them? Reason why we didn't circle them because it's not the greatest. It's not the highest common factor that they have in common. So you're always looking for the greatest common factor. And in this case, the GCF is 6. And if 30/54ths was a fraction, we can simplify this fraction by dividing both numbers by the greatest common factor of 6. And when we do that, 30/54ths is the same as 5/9 because we divided 30 by 6, which gave us 5. And 54 divided by 6 will give us 9. So again, 30 divided by 6 gives us 5. 54 divided by 6 gives us 9. Now let's look at the final example in which which we're going to find the greatest common factor between 12 and 48. And let's lay out the factors of 12, which will be 1 times 12, which will give us 12, 2 times 6 will give us 12, and 3 times 4 will give us 12. And 48 has many factors, right? So I had to write the numbers a little bit smaller just to fit all those factors in there. And so we know that 1 times 48 will give us 48, 2 times 24 will give us 48, 3 times 16 will give us 48, 4 times 12 will give us 48, and 6 times 8 will give us 48. And as you can see, the greatest common factor between these two numbers is 12 itself, right? Although they share other factors in common, like the 6 right here, and this 4 and the 3, but 12 is the greatest common factor that these two numbers have in common. And so the GCF in this case is 12. And if 12/48 was a fraction, we could divide both the numerator and the denominator by 12. And we know that 12/48 is the same as 1/4. All right, you have been given a lot of information, but I wouldn't blame you if you need to pause the video to take a look at these three big examples or replay this video as many times you need to in order to gain a deeper understanding of this concept. But in the meantime, please comment, share, like, and subscribe to Jack's Math Notebook for more content. And always keeping in mind that whenever you are learning, you're always on the right track. Thank you and goodbye.